Renee Nicole Good was the 37-year-old mother shot in cold blood by the government-backed militia known in the USA as Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but known almost everywhere else as those losers harassing random people just trying to earn a living and go about their day. Renee's death was then post hoc justified by the right wing. For those who don't know, the process of violence is known as cumulative radicalization, the process of violence that we see here. And it's been highlighted by Martin Broadstadt, Ian Kershaw, and other historians as the primary method of genocidal violence that was used by the Nazis. Basically, the violence would be committed by those lower down the chain of command, often to show their loyalty to the leader and to put minorities in their place. And it would often gain a nod of approval from those above, right? If you look at the historiography of Kristallnacht and the history behind Kristallnacht, the Night of the Broken, which many people point to as the moment the Holocaust began in earnest, and the policy moved from discrimination to extermination, or persecution to extermination. In November of 1938, I believe it was. At that moment, in the Night of the Broken Glass, the order was actually to pull back the police and allow the militias on the street to get away with what they were getting away with. There were very few active orders from the top. Most of it was post hoc justification saying, yeah, well, they had it coming, right? And I think it's important to understand that the way that cumulative radicalization works in 1938 or 1939, it works very differently in the internet age. It takes on new forms as the justification is not just the word of the leader, but they can sort of try and back it up with new evidence, like this image, which is a fake image of the scene generated using AI. There was no aerial footage of the killing of Renee, but the people justifying it want you to believe that the ICE murderer had good reasons. Now, notice that the right-hand rear car door is open in this image, but if you compare it to the other footage, you can see that the door was actually closed. Her partner was trying to open it. Also, in the AI version, her partner is gone, and you can see just to the right of the car, there's an ICE agent with a rifle that has appeared. He's not in the original footage. There is no ICE agent with a rifle or person with a rifle stood to the right of the car dressed in all black. He's not there. All of this is unsurprising, but it wasn't the only way that the right wing sought to mislead people about Renee Good's death AI. Much more subtle, in my opinion, was this image, which, for those listening on the podcast, shows a criminal record and mugshot supposedly belonging to Renee Nicole Good. Among the things that she's supposed to be supposedly charged with are child endangerment, battery of a police officer. The only problem is that this criminal record is all fake. It's AI-generated misinformation, and when used in this way, I think this is far more subtle and effective than simply generating video or images of the incident, which can be easily pulled apart with footage like everyone now has access to from multiple angles. But there are a couple of clues if you look very closely. Excuse me. Firstly, her age is wrong. Renee was 37 when she died last week, so how could she be 44 in court record, right? Where did that 7 or so years go? Also, her name is wrong. Nicole is her middle name, not her first name. It also doesn't list her, a case number, mention what court these cases were heard in. It references a booking number, but booking numbers don't take you to a particular case. You need a case number for that. But okay, maybe they were just admin errors, right? Well, Limitless Media did their own search of the court records. Limitless Media searched criminal records under names Renee Good, Renee Shepherd, Renee Macklin, with the birth date of April 2nd, 1988, which is her actual birth date, in Colorado, Minnesota, and Missouri, and found no arrest record citations or charges in any state. The only public court record found was a legal name change filed in Missouri, not a criminal record custody case. Now, this story has been ongoing, and I want to apologise for covering it again, because we've done a couple of videos on this, but I really want turn left viewers be on top of the misinformation and ready to call it out when it spreads, because this stuff is coming here. Both Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage have said that they want ICE-style deportations here. Those two are leading in the polls at the moment. They want us to be a vassal copycat of the USA. They want militia groups on our streets, just like in the USA. They want the yankification of Britain, and we on the left reject the yankification of Britain. We want to de-yankify. But even in the USA, there is resistance from incredible public figures like Mark Ruffalo, the Incredible Hulk himself, who has been walking around with a badge saying "Be Good" in reference to Renee Good's last name.
Renee Good, who was murdered. We have a vice president who's lying about what's happening. We have we're in the middle of a war with Venezuela that we illegally invaded. He's telling the world that international law doesn't matter to him. The only thing that matters to him is his own morality. But the guy is a convicted felon or convicted rapist. He's a pedophile. He's the worst human being in the world. If we're relying on this guy's morality for the most powerful country in the world, then we're all in a lot of trouble. So this is for her. This is for the people in the United States who are terrorized and scared today. I know I'm one of them. I love this country, and what I'm seeing here happening is not America. It's just not.
Mark, why do you feel that this platform is still useful to spread a message like this?
Listen, I want to pretend like this is, I want to be here to celebrate, and I am here to celebrate, and I'm proud to have a Golden Globe nomination. But also, this is not normal anymore. And so I don't know how I could be quiet. And I'm feeling a little sick, so it's hard to BS right now.
That makes three of us. I'm going to bring in the other sick person that we've got here. Samuel, I was going to ask about ICE being brought here, but first of all, I just want to ask about your opinion about the killing, the murder of Renee Good, and just get your general take on it, because I haven't heard it, obviously, because we haven't had you on since. So yeah, just your general thoughts on what happened there, first of all, if that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, sickening, disturbing. I like you seen the video, and it was very disturbing. I think America is in a very dark place, has been in a very dark place for a very long time, and I think that Renee Good, his death has really highlighted what's happened. But I also think that we need to, discussing that ICE has been doing this. ICE has been doing this. I believe that a black man, I think his name, forgive me if I'm wrong, I think his name is Keith Porter. But on New Year's Eve, I know that it was on New Year's Eve, ICE actually killed a black man on New Year's Eve as well. So ICE is essentially now that Trump is using on his political enemies, and I guess my take, whatever, is just how excruciatingly evil this whole thing has been, and how avoidable it has been. As someone here watching from the UK as a leftist, thinking, please just don't get him back in that White House. Please, just anything, just don't allow him back in, because you know that, as another leftist, I'm sure you knew too, that when he gets back in, he's going to want to seek revenge on his political enemies. He's going to want to shore up his power. He's learnt from administration one, he's learned from the 2016 to 2019. The people around him have learned about how to consolidate their power. So this time they're going to put up a huge fight. So it's America's in a dark place, and quite frankly, the world. Obviously, about the threats Trump has been making towards Greenland. There's lots of discussion there around how the European nations are going to deal with that. I think it's a really dark place, and we're only going to be able to really, if we're ever going to get out of this, it's through collective action. It's through shutting down the means of how billionaires are making their profits. And I think that's a discussion that really needs to be had this year, in how to effectively stop this, essentially a whole operation of these billionaires and all these Israel genocide supporters, because they're all interlinked.
I was just looking at the story. You were correct about the name. The death of Keith Porter, who was murdered and killed by an off-duty ICE agent. He apparently Keith Porter fired gunshots as part of a New Year's Eve celebration, which is like in Britain that would be shocking to us, but in the US that's not particularly shocking. People use their guns for celebrations all the time in the USA. It says it's a practice which is routinely condemned by law enforcement officials, but I think that it had a lot more to do with the fact, personally, that he was a black man with a weapon in the USA, and they do not like that. But I'm only just hearing about the case, so I can't judge that harshly. But the fact that ICE killed Keith Porter but we didn't hear that much about it is also, I think, quite significant.
I mean, obviously people are doing the best they can to get the information that they have, and they're working with it and in good faith. But I also think it is a separate discussion about, I saw a tweet talking about how racism is a huge beast, insofar as that, this black man had been killed, like you said, by an off-duty ICE agent, but hasn't received anywhere near as much coverage as Renee Good. And obviously, it's not about comparing. And in this instance, the fight is against ICE. But I think in everything, there is always room to analyze. There's always room to be introspective and look at how people react to certain things and why they may react to certain things. But yes, I do believe that it's time for a coming together, ultimately, to be able to defeat what is essentially a Nazi Gestapo force on American streets.
I think you have to take into account those sort of like hierarchies of attention and care, because the cumulative radicalization, the violence that I was talking about, it punches down those hierarchies. So you can't ignore the fact that a black man in America gets less attention than a white woman being, and that's not to say that we shouldn't be talking about Renee, because we absolutely should. She was unarmed. She was an unarmed mother just going home from dropping her kid off. She was just going about her daily business, and also her murder was caught from multiple angles, which does help her case, and we should absolutely be discussing it. But we also need to be aware of those structural hierarchies that are the root of a lot of ICE violence. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to ask you, are you worried about this stuff coming here to the UK, with what Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch have said? And what communities do you think will be most heavily impacted in the UK? Because it might be slightly different to the USA, right?
Number one, yes, I am worried. I think that the comments from Nigel Farage and the comments from Kemi Badenoch indicate that they are more than willing, if given opportunity, if given power, to essentially replicate what Trump is doing. So it's a very worrying prospect. I do think that the community that will be, I think communities of color, will be affected broadly, but I think that specifically knowing the reforms history of particular communities they go after, and also the conservatives, I think it will be the Muslim community. I think Islamophobia is thriving in the Reform and Conservative Party. They don't hide their Islamophobia. And Elon Musk is egging that on with his disgusting tweets on Twitter. They call it X, but it's really Twitter. It will never be X. It's always Twitter. And I think this is one of the reasons why we really need to start pushing back now, especially here in the UK, this de-yankification idea. I think also the idea of de-yankification is popular mainstream. I think more broadly, outside of a left-wing, right-wing paradigm, I think people are kind of, they would like to push back against the idea of the UK becoming some kind of vassal state of the United States. So I think, it is particularly worrying that Kemi wants to bring it here and Farage wants to bring it here. And I do worry about Muslims, because I know that Islamophobia is at an all-time high in those particular parties.
Islamophobia. The other one that occurs to me for the UK is like transphobia. I think that's potentially going to be a big one.
Absolutely.
I just had one more question on this. I'm aware we're tight on time, but I wondered, how can we tackle the rise of like AI misinformation? Because you can do things like mandatory watermarking, but I'm skeptical about whether that's going to be enough, in particular when it comes to the like more subtle stuff like the faked court documents. So the stuff where they're being a bit smarter about it. They're not just going straight for the jugular of like, oh, here's a generated image of Renee, I don't know, firing shots out the side of her car. They're going for the like slightly more subtle stuff, and that stuff is harder to tackle. Like, how can we, and if people in the audience have suggestions as well, if you're listening to this and you got suggestions in the comments, interested to hear them, but is there a way that we can tackle this? I'm genuinely asking you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so you mentioned the idea of a watermark, which has been proposed. So it would be on AI videos to obviously delineate what is fake and what is not. But then what strikes me about that is the ineffectiveness of it all, because of maybe there not being that teaching from an early age. For example, if the government decides tomorrow they want to put a watermark on all AI videos, okay. But I just wonder how effective that messaging is to get that information out there, that, hey, everyone, this is the new thing now. Like, yeah, of course, you know, you're going to get a huge majority of people like, you know, understanding that. But what about the people who just simply don't, who just, you know, maybe they've woken up in the morning and their eyes are a bit foggy and they've not necessarily seen that there's a watermark and they've just thought. So I think it is a serious problem to discuss. I know that there are smarter minds in this area on this from a more left-wing perspective that can hopefully you know, provide some kind of clarity about what the future is. But ultimately, like, for those who know me, like, I'm very anti-AI. Like, I'm sort of the kind of deaf to AI kind of person. Excuse me, I don't know if you can say that on YouTube. But I'm very anti-AI, primarily because of the environmental destruction, which is just what I've come to realize is just insane when you think about pristine waters that are being, you know. So from that angle, I'm already kind of radicalized against AI and AI slop, and also what I see as the theft from creatives as well. But I don't want to go on too much because I know we've got other stories to cover. But in a nutshell, I think that there are probably smarter minds who hopefully have some kind of strategies. Because for me, you know, I'm just kind of flat out very anti-AI. Sorry, it's my bias, if there is any.
Yeah, I think it was wonderful that I'm a big nerd about the series Arcane on Netflix. It's a great series.
I haven't watched it myself.
Oh, it's so good, and the art in it is absolutely incredible. Like, honestly, the best animated series that I've ever watched, and I've loved some animated series in the past. I'm not somebody that's against animated series; they're just absolutely incredible. But one of the things is that the writers and all of the people involved do not generate AI stuff with our work. It is just stealing from our artists. We don't endorse it. We wouldn't use AI in any of our advertising, any of our stuff. And I think the Fallout, I think, released like an AI generated trailer that was terrible, by the way. And got a load of kickback for it and had to take it down. So I'm joining you in the fight against AI. I think that in a lot of ways, particularly the widely used, like I just think, yeah, and with who currently owns it, I think there is a form of AI that I think could be, you know, reasonable one day, particularly for like generating ideas and stuff and bouncing ideas off of things like. But yeah, it's who owns it. I think is one of the biggest.
It's the ownership model. It's how it's done. It's the resources used. It's all that.
Yeah, the scale of it as well. Yeah. Although don't get me started on talking about how expensive computer parts have become.